this week was all about finishing knits. After trying to make it work for a bit longer than I probably should have, I ripped all of that out and started again. I was very stressed and I was a bit like, is this really worth it? Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Oline and I'm a knitter from Norway, and welcome to my knitting podcast. Here I talk about all things knitting, my current project, finished projects, planned projects, and sometimes even yarn, just everything that comes to mind while I sit here and chat with you. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with me here today. But before we get into everything I've been knitting on this week, I thought I'd say a couple of words about what I'm wearing today. And I am wearing one of my knitted sweaters, even though it is a bit warm to be wearing this right now, so I don't know if I'll be able to wear it the whole episode. But I'm wearing my Cumulus blouse O-neck by Petiteknit, and I like to call this my birthday sweater because I cast it on my birthday, and it's made with yarn I got for my birthday, so I just think that makes it a little bit more special to me, and I like to remember it by calling it my birthday sweater. It's knit in drops alpaca silk, I think it's called. It's like mohair, but it's alpaca and silk instead of mohair and silk, and it's about twice the thickness, so it's double. It's like mohair double-stranded, which worked out perfectly for me because I had really set my eyes on the Cumulus blouse O-neck, but I don't love to wear double-stranded mohair, and I definitely don't like working with double-stranded mohair. So when I got this yarn from my grandma, I immediately knew what I was going to make with it, and it turned out quite perfect. I have not measured gauge because I usually don't, but I did look into it a bit before I started and figured that I was going to be okay, and the fit of this has really turned out to be everything I imagined it to be. So I think I hit gauge very closely at least. But yeah, I was able to make this using just one strand of the drops alpaca silk, which means this is an incredibly light sweater. I think this whole sweater is 125 grams, which also makes it perfect for summer, which I really wanted it to be. As I said, today it is a bit warm. Honestly, this year has just been a lot warmer than we're used to, but for usual summers here where I live, this is the perfect summer sweater. It might even be a bit cold sometimes, but I have done a few things to make it more of a summer sweater. The sleeves are a bit cropped, just because I like my sleeves to be more cropped in the summer when I'm out and about doing things. I don't want to constantly be pulling my sleeves up, and since these are a bit shorter, I don't have to do that. And the body is also quite short. It's not super short. Most of my sweaters are this short, but it is a bit short. And also, of course, the fabric of this is quite breathable. The gauge is quite loose, if you can see, so all of that together makes it really great summer sweater, at least usually. But since we are having such a warm summer this year, I think it might be one of the warmest summers, or May I should say. It's been one of the warmest Mays here that we've had. My grandma can not remember it ever being this warm this early in the year, so I am struggling a bit because I love wearing my knits. I want to wear my knits every single day. They are my favorite things to wear. I want to wear at least something I've knit every single day, but since I live in a really cold climate and I love knitting sweaters, that's mostly what I have. I have all of the sweaters I probably will ever need for sweater weather, but I don't have a lot of summer knits, and this summer I realized that I might actually need some of those since I love wearing my knits so much. So that's definitely something that I want to focus on going forwards, because the few summer knits I have right now are definitely working overtime, and like this one, some of them are still quite warm, and when we are having like almost 30-degree weather, this sweater in alpaca is not the best fit, but that's something I'm definitely going to be working on this next week and this summer in general, just building more of a capsule wardrobe when it comes to summer knits as well. And I really want them to work both for summer and be like cold enough to work in warm summer weather, but to also work in winter, so I can get as much use out of them as possible. If I'm going to spend my hours knitting them up, I also want to be able to spend a lot of hours using them. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I was supposed to talk about this one, but I don't think there is a lot more to say with this one, and we can get into what I've actually been doing this week. And we've had a really great week. Last Friday we celebrated Norway's Independence Day, and then we had a long weekend off. I've spent a lot of time with family, and we've just all been outside every opportunity we can get, because we really want to soak up this weather while we have it. So that's meant that I haven't got as much knitting time as I usually do in winter and when it's colder. Of course, we spend a lot more time like bundled up inside, and I use all of that time to knit. But since it's been so warm outside, I haven't really wanted to knit because it's been a bit too warm, and I've just been enjoying family time. But I have also been working really hard to finish a few knits that I've had quite strict deadlines on. But I think we can start with what I've actually finished this week, because this week was all about finishing knits, and I had 3 knits that I was knitting on a deadline, and the first one I finished quite early in the week. I think last podcast when I talked about this, I was halfway done, about at the armhole. And this is the Always Camisole by Garnogslikt, and mine is knitted in Drops Cotton Merino, or the gift I'm going to be giving away. This is a gift for my cousin. She's getting confirmed next weekend, so this needed to be done just so I wouldn't have to stress right up to the day I was going to gift it away. And I still have ends to weave in, and it needs to be washed and wrapped and everything, so it's not completely done, but in my mind it's done when I'm done knitting. So this is like basically done. And this was a really fun project because it was my first time using Drops Cotton Merino to knit, and it was also my very first time trying out the designer Garnogslikt, which I've been eyeing like all of her patterns for so long, and I'm just drooling over all of her patterns. I love them, and I really didn't know what I was going to knit for my cousin for her confirmation gift, and then I came across this pattern and saw that it was knit on 5.5mm needles, and I was on a time crunch, and I knew that was going to be perfect. I also asked my sister, who is a closer friend to my cousin than I am, if she would like this, and my sister said yes. So I went with this, and I got to try out a new yarn and a designer in one swoop, which was a lot of fun. It's also a very different fit than I usually choose for my camisoles. I like camisoles with more of like a strap, but this one has like basically any strap at all, and the neckline is very high up, which I didn't really think I liked, but I tried this on as I was working on it, because me and my cousin are quite close in size, and I wanted to see if it would fit, because I made some alterations. And I do honestly really enjoy the fit, so I think this is definitely going to be a summer knit I want to make this year. And it was also a very quick knit. I think in all I used maybe 2.5 days to make this whole camisole, which was really a great way to start the week as well, because I started this last week since last podcast quite stressed, because I had so many deadlines and so many knits I had to finish quickly, and finishing the first thing very early on in the week and also very quickly definitely helped me be more motivated, and when I'm more motivated I knit faster. So this was a great project all around, and definitely something I want to do again. I did make a few alterations, as I said, because I really wanted to use this yarn because I had it in my stash and I had quite a lot of it in my stash, and you can't really go wrong with navy blue, I think. So I wanted to knit with this yarn, but when I started knitting with this yarn on 5.5mm needles, it just didn't look right. The fabric was way too gapey. I think the original yarn combination the pattern asked for is 1 strand of knitting for olive merino and 1 strand of knitting for olive pure silk, but I don't have that in my stash, and I did really want to use this. But when I knit with drops cotton merino on 5.5mm needles, it just didn't look right. It was too gapey and the fabric just didn't look good, and it couldn't hold any structure to it because it was just so flimsy. So after trying to make it work for a bit longer than I probably should have, I ripped all of that out and started again and decided that I was going to do 5mm needles instead of on 5.5, and because of that I went up a size. I started knitting this in the size small, but since I went down needle size, I went up clothing size, so this is the medium size, but with 5mm needles, and that worked very well. I got a fabric I am really pleased with. It looks quite good, but it's still like very breathable and gapey, but it looks better. When I did on 5.5mm needles, all of the stitches looked wonky, and I just knew that it wouldn't even be so salvageable by blocking, so I gave that up. But with 5mm needles I am very pleased with how it worked out. I tried it on before joining in the round just to see that this part would be wide enough, because that's really the only part the size really mattered on, because the arm hole here, you kind of decide, you knit this going based off of centimeters, and of course you knit the whole thing based off of centimeters, how long you want it. So it's mostly just the width of it that's decided by the size, and I tried it on before joining in the round so I could see if I would have to knit like more increases, because you do a few increases here before you join in the round on both the front and the back side. So I just tried it on because I am almost the same size as my cousin, to see if I would need to do more or less increases, but that was fine. It fits really great, and that's also how I realized that I really like the fit of this camisole, and yeah, I'm really happy with how this turned out. And also there are I-cord edges to everything except for the bottom hem here, which means that rolls up a bit, but I think that's how it's meant to be in the pattern. I have to read one more time just to make sure I didn't miss an I-cord that's supposed to go on the bottom here. But this is the first gift I finished, and I honestly really recommend this. It was a great pattern to follow. It was really fun to knit a camisole on such big needles because it went by really quickly. I think it's going to be amazing to wear, and yeah, it's just a really fun project. But that's the first thing I finished. And after I was finished knitting this, I had to move on to what I probably should have started with, because I was on a much stricter deadline with my other knits, and so strict that I've already sent them away. I don't have them here with me to show you, but I have been, if you've been watching me, I have been knitting on my twin cousin's christening outfit, and I thought I had a lot better time because the christening is after my other cousin's confirmation, so I thought I had more time, and I'm not great with time management either, so I just planned poorly and thought I had more time than I did. But throughout last week I realized that oh no, my father is actually the one that's supposed to bring them, and he's going to visit his brother and my twin cousins and his brother's wife this weekend. He left yesterday on Thursday, so I thought I had like a week more than that, but turns out I only had until yesterday on Thursday. So last week I had like this much of the body on the Carl's cardigan done at the start of the week, so I had to just speed knit through the Carl's cardigan, finish the body, do the sleeves, do the yoke, do the button bands, and stress through that. And I think I finished that on Monday, and I also cast on the Moby Slipover that I was going to do on Monday. And when I looked at my note for the Moby Slipover, which I was really uncertain if I was going to be able to finish, the first Moby Slipover that I'd done had taken me 9 days, and this time around I only had 3.5 days. So I started that incredibly stressed, and I did show some of that. I did a week of knitting last week, so a lot of this week went into that. So if you're interested to see my process of stress knitting through all of these knits, feel free to go watch that one. But I started it on Monday, and I knit as much as I could and tried to stay up as long as I could in the night to knit on it and just knit whenever possible. But since I knit so much, my hand really started hurting because the Moby Slipover, it's tiny needles, it's a lot of structure, it's a lot of just like finicky movements, which means it doesn't grow very fast, and you always have to like with your hands. So my hand really started hurting, which meant I had to take breaks from it. And when I went to bed Wednesday, I think, I still had like half of it left to do. So I was understandably quite stressed because I was going to give it to my father at like 1 p.m. the next day, but I got up quite early because my son gets up quite early lately, and I did manage to finish the Moby Slipover as well, but my hand hurt so much. So yesterday I barely knit at all. I think I did a few stitches in the evening, just like mindlessly knitting and not anything structured at all, and not on super tiny millimeter needles because my hand needed a break. It was really tired. So this week I'm also going to not stress as much with my knitting and just knit a bit calmer. And also after this gift knitting marathon, and really the gift knitting marathon I've been on for the last year, I think, a lot of people I know have been having babies, and just a lot, then Christmas and then babies and then the christening and confirmations, and there's just been a lot of gift knitting, and since I'm bad at time management, that usually means stress, and knitting a bit faster than I really should at times. So I am hopefully going to take a bit of a break from gift knitting this summer. Both my son and my siblings has their birthday during the summer, so we'll see if I manage to do that, because I do really genuinely love doing gift knits. If I didn't, I don't think I would do it as much, but I also think my mind and my fingers need a bit of a break from gift knitting. I don't think it's super healthy to do it as much as I've been doing it lately, but I am super pleased that I did finish the christening outfit just in time. I think I finished it with half an hour to spare, and I must say I didn't finish it as much as I had hoped I would. Luckily my aunt is also a knitter, so when I said to her I don't know if I'll be able to finish this, because on Wednesday I had half of the slipover left, but yeah, I said to her I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish this, but she said if I was able to finish knitting it, she could weave in ends, and I also sent with the buttons for the Carl's cardigan because I didn't have time to do that either, but hopefully she'll have the time to weave in ends and do the buttons, and the outfit will be complete. And I did just have time to take a couple of pictures before I packed it up and delivered it to my father, and it turned out so cute. I was very stressed, and I was a bit like, is this really worth it towards the end there, because my hand was hurting and I was stressed, but once I saw it finished and laying next to each other, it was so cute. If you have a baby, I recommend knitting these together, because the structure on the Cardigan with the structure on the Moby Slipover, they work so well together, and you can really play around with colors as well. The cardigan I made is very muted in color, and I wouldn't say the colors I choose for the slipovers are really bright either, but I think they work really well together, both as a slipover and cardigan, and the slipovers with each other. So I'm really pleased with how that turned out, and I am so happy to be done now. And when I had knit that final stitch and finished the Italian bind off, it was such an amazing feeling of relief that I've made it in time, and even now I'm relieved that I made it in time. So I want to just cherish that feeling and keep that for a little longer and wait to do more gift knits. Now I just want to focus on making everything that I want to make and be able to cast on whatever I want to cast on whenever I want to do it, because I don't have any deadlines to worry about. I do have that my wedding dress that I'm knitting, that of course has a deadline, but that's so far in the future that I'm not going to be worried about that, and probably with my time management skills that's going to bite me in the ass. But this summer I just want to focus on knitting whatever I want to knit whenever I want to knit it, and just go with the vibes and go with the flow. I think that will be a very nice change from what I've been doing lately, where I've been almost trying to go with the flow, but then also be really stressed with all of the deadlines I have, both self-imposed and actual ones. But this summer I'm going to work on not having any self-imposed deadlines and not saying yes to all of the actual deadlines I have been doing lately. So I'm really looking forward to that, but we have to take just a moment for how cute the set for the twins actually turned out, because I am in love with it. I'm in love with it. I just want to make the same one for my son. It turned out so good. So I'm really excited about that, but I'm also really excited about not doing any more gift knits anytime soon. But that is what I did for finished knits this week, and since I spent so much of my time pouring that time into getting these knits finished, that was what I was doing when I was not, either I was knitting on that or I was not knitting. So I haven't gotten a lot done on my active projects. I have 2 projects I'm not even really going to mention, my wedding dress and the baby blanket I'm making, because I didn't really have any time to do any of those. I did knit a bit on my wedding dress, but it's not noticeable, so I'm not going to talk about that. But and the baby blanket I haven't touched for a long time now, but I'll talk a little bit about my pole cardigan, because I am really excited about this now, and I'm finally working on it again. This was a bit of a break this week, since I just had to finish everything, but I did pick it back up again last night. This was what I just knit a little bit on last night, and I am so excited about it. As you know, if you've watched before, I have finished the body on this, and the next thing was working on the neckline. And this pattern is by Morecaknit, and it's my first time knitting anything from her, and I'm having the best time, a bit because of this color. It's just everything, and I'm obsessed with the color, but mainly because Morecaknit is a great designer. I want to knit everything she's ever made, because a lot of it looks really good, but also just because of how great patterns she has, how well thought out all of it is, all of the small details, her way of doing things. I am absolutely loving it. I've been knitting for so long, so I feel like I know most techniques, and when I knit I don't have to look at techniques a lot usually, but for this I've been looking at so many of her techniques videos, which she links in her pattern too, so it's just really great. I love her as a pattern designer. I am obsessed. If you haven't tried her out yet, I really recommend it. But yesterday I also tried something new, because you were supposed to stabilize the neckline on this, and I must say, even though I'm having fun learning all of the new techniques and doing things that are new to me, I don't love the process of all of them, because some of them are like really finicky and time consuming and just super finicky, and stabilizing the neckline definitely was, and it was a really long process as well, just doing this little bit of neckline, which, looking at the pattern, I didn't think like this double rib folded over would take very long at all, but because it's so intricately made and well thought out, it did take me almost a full day. But you secure the neckline first with a piece of like scrap yarn and do some wraparounds, and then you bind that off in a way that I hadn't bind off before, and then I picked up stitches from the bind off, and then I just did the regular rib, and then I actually sewed that down in kind of like Kitchener stitch, but also not. But I just feel like I've learned a lot making this pattern, and I don't know if I would do it like that myself if I were to design things myself, because I don't love all of the ways of doing it, but I can see that it's a really clever way of doing it, and probably the best way to get the best result. So it's just been so fun to learn new techniques. That is one of my favorite things by knitting with patterns, that you can learn so many new techniques so quickly. I've been knitting for I think 17 years now, and a lot of those years I just knit freehanded, and I did learn a lot when doing that as well. But once I started knitting with patterns, I think 4 years ago now, how my knowledge within knitting has just exploded. All the techniques I can do now, and how I can read my knitting, it's just gotten so much better since following patterns. So I think that's really fun with patterns, how much quicker you can learn than if you're just exploring on your own. But I do really want to start exploring more on my own again, and I wouldn't say designing maybe, but at least making clothes out of my own head for myself, and knitting with all of these new designers and seeing all of the really cool way you can do things. I'm really enjoying it, and just learning all of these new techniques that I can like envision myself using later. I am loving it. And also, even though this was really finicky and it took long, and I kind of just wanted instant gratification after all of the deadline knits, this color looks so good, and I'm so glad I took my time to do it correctly and look at the tutorial and not just guessed myself to this place. And it looks so good. I am just like looking at it amazed. I don't even know what to do. I just think it looks so good. So after finishing this, I've spent a good amount of time just looking at it, because the curve it made, how stable it is, just how pretty this double ribbing turned out to be, how pretty the transition is down here without like that rough edge from picking up stitches. It just, all of it is really great. And I think the next thing for me now is to pick up along the edges and start doing the double knitted button bands, which I'm also really excited about, because then you can really see that this is a V-neck shaped cardigan. And after that I just have the sleeves to go, so this is really close to being finished. Of course, double knitting takes a lot of time, but from my like quick look through the pattern, I don't think there are any more really time consuming techniques other than the double ribbing left. So I hope, my hope is still that I'll be able to finish this in May, because even though it is summer temperatures and summer weather and summer everything outside now, for me May is still a spring month, and this was supposed to be my spring cardigan, so I still hope I'll be able to have this as my spring cardigan. If not, my birthday is in exactly 2 weeks, and I think this would also be a great birthday cardigan to finish this in time for my birthday, so I can wear this while celebrating my birthday. But no matter when it will be finished, I already know I'm going to love this. I have also been wanting to make more cardigans lately, because it's just not been sweater weather. Even when it's a bit more cool weather, I still have just wanted like a cardigan to be able to have over my shoulders and not like a full-on sweater. So this will be great when it's finished. I think I'll be able to get a lot of use out of it, and the color as well is just amazing. So this is a project I'm really excited about, and I am getting really close to finishing it now, I feel. It did feel like I had a lot left when this was waiting on me this last week, but now that I've done this step, which had a lot of techniques unfamiliar to me, now I know how to do everything that's left, so I feel a lot better about everything. So now I'm just super excited to get back into this, and this is definitely something I'm going to be knitting on, just because I am obsessed with the pattern, the designer, the yarn, the fit, everything about this. And I am knitting this with Drops Baby Merino and Drops Kid Silk. I think the Baby Merino is in the color bright green, and the Kid Silk is in the color parrot green. I am not quite sure, but so far this is my pole cardigan. And then I have one more project that I have been working on this last week, and I haven't been working on it for very long because I cast this on today, but it just has worked up really quick, and I am completely obsessed. I have been wanting to make this project for quite long, and I've said to myself that casting on this project would be my reward once I'd finished all of my deadline knits. But yesterday I was a bit unsure what I really wanted to cast on once I'd finished my deadline knit, so I did put out a poll on Instagram if I should cast on the square neck camisole by Garnogslikt, same designer as the Always camisole, if I should do the Blouse No. 1 by Myfavoritethings.knitwear, if I should do the Elizabeth blouse by Petiteknit, or if I should do the 9 PM tank by Petiteknit. And the poll were divided. It was all of them got a lot of votes, but it was between the Blouse No. 1 and the Elizabeth blouse, and I think those has the exact same number of votes. So I decided to go with the Blouse No. 1 because I'm knitting that in the most summery yarn, and it feels like the most summery pattern out of those two. And it was originally the one I had thought about. I just got really unsure yesterday. But this is my Blouse No. 1. I cast it on right before starting to podcast really, and it just grew really fast. I did the German short rows first because I love German short rows, so I couldn't get myself to stop, and then I just had to do the increases, and now I've done almost all of the increases for the sleeve as well, so over the top of the sleeve here. This is also knit on 5mm needles with Drops Cotton Merino, and I am loving knitting with Drops Cotton Merino on 5mm needles, both because the fabric is great and the feel when I knit is great, but also just because it goes by so quickly. So it's after being so stressed and working on small millimeters and seeing no progress and stressing about that, working on something just because I want to and seeing it progress really quickly is super fun. I am loving it. I am obsessed. It was so hard to put this down to go podcast because I just wanted to have this in my hands and knit on it. I can't put it down now even. I'm just here knitting away at it, and I think that means this will progress quite quickly because I just can't seem to put it down. But I think this will be a great way to like dip my toe into more summer knits, because this is still a sweater which I think I'll be able to use year round, and it is also both cotton and merino, which means it should work well both in summer and winter. And yeah, I just think the fit and the gauge and the fabric that this makes will be a really good like year-round sweater for me. I am unsure if it would be too hot for the weather we are having right now, but I'll just have to knit it and see. I'm also again really wondering how this actually like wears over time, but now I am just super excited to have it on my needles. The blouse number 1 is something I've been wanting for so long, and now I'm finally knitting it up. And by the way, this is progressing. I'm going to have one quite soon. I'm also loving this color. This is like a really bright blue turquoise kind of color in the cotton merino, which I also think is going to be great for summer instead of this, which is quite dark, and a lot of my knitting is quite dark. This is like really bright and blue, which I love, and I think it's just going to be really great for summer. So this is a project I'm really excited about. So far I really enjoy the construction, but yeah, I don't know, I don't have a lot to say about this because I've maybe been knitting on it for half an hour, so I haven't made a lot of like opinions or thoughts a lot about it. I just know that I'm so pleased to finally have it on my needles, and this definitely feels like a great reward for knitting all of those gifts and all of those projects on a deadline. And I'm just really enjoying knitting whatever I want to knit on at the moment and not having any deadlines, and hopefully I'll be able to keep my knitting that way this summer. I do have a few doubts because usually I manage to sneak a few deadlines in here and there, but I want to at least keep it to a minimum and just de-stress and really enjoy my knitting instead of stressing through it, and keep my hands healthy, of course. But yeah, I think that is all I have this week, and now I just want to get back to my knitting and back outside and enjoy time with my family. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and if you want to see more from me, please leave a like and a comment and subscribe, and remember to ring that bell button so you'll be reminded every time I post. And have a good week. Bye!